Can Kansas State finally run the ball and establish control of the game against an Iowa State team that beat them 29 to 21 last season? Iowa State beat them the year before that in a game where Kansas State had 45 minutes of possession. It was Will Howard's final game, and Iowa State won 42-35 on a bunch of big plays with only 15 minutes of possession. Iowa State's coming off of their first 10-11 win season in school history, their second Big 12 championship game appearance under Matt Campbell. They made it in 2020, made it again last year, lost both years, and were clearly the inferior team. But it's Iowa State, and their expectations are now definitely go bowling every year, and some years punch above that, which is far above whatever their expectations were before Campbell got there. Campbell is a historic coach for Iowa State, and Chris Kleiman is a historic coach in his own right. Won national titles at North Dakota State, won the Big 12 back in 2022, beating the TCU Horned Frogs, who only lost to Kansas State, and the eventual national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Kleiman and Campbell each have their own formulas. Their formulas work. They are unique. Iowa State has that 3-3-5 defense with three high safeties that does a really good job of slowing down explosive offenses. It's a defense that I think was built to slow down those Lincoln Riley Oklahoma offenses, and Oklahoma isn't in the Big 12 anymore. Riley is now with USC, but it's a defense that has served Iowa State well. And they've also been a pretty underrated quarterback factory. Not talking about factory as in they're one of the best and biggest and most efficient factories in all of college football, but for the talent they have, turning Rocco Becht into a name that is somewhat widely recognized. And then obviously you have Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers is pretty impressive. Kansas State earned the commitment of high-level four-star quarterback Avery Johnson. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. And they also earned a commitment from Lincoln Cure, high-level commitment to 4-star out of high school. I believe Lincoln Cure actually may have been a 5-star. Don't check me on that. But both of these teams have found diamonds in the rough or straight up have taken good players, and they've done a great job of developing them. Kansas State is known for their offensive line, their ground attack, a defense that, like Iowa State's, is also a 3-3-5, and like Iowa State's defense, is pretty tenacious. Joe Klanderman and Iowa State defensive coordinator John Heacock do a really good job. Offensively, Kansas State is stereotypically known as more of a running team with good enough receivers, or more often the case, tight ends or receiving backs. Deuce Vaughn was like this. Dylan Edwards, former Colorado player, is now like this, where they use their running backs and tight ends and receivers here and there to pass the ball to keep you honest, but they like the downfield running threat. Straight up. That's what they like to do, whether it's Matt Wells now or Colin Klein beforehand or Courtney Messingham. That was their identity. Iowa State, whether under Taylor Mauser, or I wish I knew the guy who preceded him, but they have usually been, from my understanding, they've had some great running backs. I mean, remember Breece Hall. But recently, they have more so operated through their wide receivers in quarterback play. And they've typically had better quarterback play than Kansas State. That's an assumption entering this football game by many, is that Becht is, the better passer, and Avery Johnson's the better running quarterback. And Kansas State will be better at running the ball, probably, but Iowa State should automatically be better at passing the ball. And I got to be honest with you guys, I don't know how true that is. And I'm going to give you some numbers to back that up. So, Avery Johnson passed for 2,712 yards last year for 7.3 per carry. Now, Rocco Becht passed for hundreds of more yards, almost 1,000 more yards than Avery Johnson. But Avery Johnson had 372 passing attempts. Becht had 456 with 3,505 passing yards. Their completion percentage was in the high 50s, both. Johnson at a 58.3%, Becht at a 59.4%. Becht's average was a 7.7 yards per pass attempt to, again, Johnson's 7.3. Becht had 25 passing touchdowns. Same with Johnson. Johnson had one more interception with 10. Becht with one less than Johnson, one fewer than Johnson at 9. Johnson took 13 sacks. Becht took 15. Both their passer ratings were in the upper 130s. Their QBRs were literally close to identical. So Becht's was a 69.4, and I believe Johnson's, off the top of my head, was a 69.7. Yes, double check that. Thank you, ESPN. Johnson had 605 rushing yards for 7 touchdowns, and Becht had 318 for 8 rushing touchdowns. He had Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who were receivers that both had 1,100 receiving yards or more and 8 or 9 receiving touchdowns, depending on which. Noel got picked in the 3rd round, so a day 2 draft pick. Higgins was picked in the 2nd round, also a day 2 draft pick. And I think at one point, one of them may have been getting 1st round buzz. Those are historic receivers, historic for Iowa State. They are both gone. Their tight end, Gabe Burkle, is still with the team. And Burkle, along with Benjamin Brahmer, I think will make up their best threat through the air, along with incoming transfer Chase Sowell with, again, 678 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, average nearly 20 yards per reception. But it is still a pretty big downgrade from what they had. And meanwhile, Kansas State, their best wide receiver last year, Jace Brown, who had 823 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, he's back. Garrett Oakley, their best tight end, he's back too. He had 5 receiving touchdowns. Keegan Johnson is gone. DJ Giddens is gone. But DJ Giddens was a running back, 1,300-yard running back. They have Dylan Edwards. They have Joe Jackson back there. I'm curious to see how these teams potentially change compared to their styles last year. I don't imagine they'll veer too far from it. But Iowa State returns Abu Sama III and Carson Hansen. Kansas State loses their star running back, but Kansas State also brings in some talented receivers, and they return their best receiver. They also bring in Jerron Brandley from Boston College, who had a productive 2023 year before I assume he got injured, and Jerron Tibbs played with the Purdue team that had no talent, no quarterback play, no defense. Somehow got 305 yards and 2 touchdowns. I imagine he'll be more productive in a Kansas State offensive system and overall team that's far superior to Purdue. And you're not playing the same demoralizing, tough schedule that the Boilermakers had to play last year. Big Ten slate plus Notre Dame. Yikes. I mean, they played the 2 teams that played for the national championship, including 2 teams who played in the Big Ten title, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Don't want to get too carried away here. But offensively, both of these teams return pieces in areas which they were weaker and lose a lot in areas which they were stronger, with, I would say, the exception of Kansas State to a lesser degree. Because with what Kansas State brings back at receiver and with Johnson returning, both QBs returning, but what Johnson's more comfortable with, plus his natural talent, leads me to believe that this year, I would say there's a higher probability that he'll be a better passer than Becht will be a better passer than him. Receiver is more even than it was last year. Last year, Kansas State outgained Iowa State, but due to it being in Iowa State, at Iowa State, and not a neutral field like this matchup, and also due to the fact that Kansas State had 2 turnovers, so Iowa State was +2 in the turnover battle, Iowa State won 29-21. Well, now here we are. It's neutral field. Kansas State, I think, returns more of what you want to bring back on offense than Iowa State does. And you look defensively, they return Austin Romaine, Kansas State does. Linebacker who had 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, is rated by PFF as one of the best in the nation. They bring back VJ Payne, great safety, senior player. Desmond Purnell is another running back to pay attention to. And Cody Stufflebean, along with Chidi Obezor, are a great defensive end edge duo in the Big 12. Like, that is one of the better defensive fronts right there in the Big 12. Iowa State, for example, they have Dominique Orange at nose tackle, a big guy who can really soak up blocks on the interior. 325 pounds, 6'4". Love him. Have questions a little bit about their defensive ends and other players in the line. They did lose one of their star players there to Texas A&M. Returning Caleb Bacon, redshirt senior, is huge. And I would say Jeremiah Cooper coming back as well at strong safety. That is a player to pay close attention to. 2 interceptions, 8 passes defended last year. Kansas State's favored by 3. They're given a 62.3% chance to win this game per FPI. Kansas State has, I would say, the more talented roster by virtue of returning some of the players they do on the defensive front, returning Sam Hecht at center. Getting J.B. Nelson at guard from Penn State in the portal was a very underrated pickup by them. They also got George Fitzpatrick, who the staff was raving about, but I think he unfortunately suffered an injury. Won't be playing for this year, or at least won't be starting, if my memory serves me correctly. Look, J.B. Nelson was pretty good for Penn State last year. Just couldn't start because he was playing for a pretty good offensive line that's interior was much stronger than its tackle core last year. I expect Penn State to field the best offensive line in America. So Nelson being a player that was starting in different roles for that unit last year, now coming down to the Big 12, I wouldn't be shocked if he was one of the Big 12's best offensive guards. And you already have Sam Hecht at center. I don't think Kansas State will have problems running the ball. What about stopping the run? We'll have to see. In theory, they should have the run defense and rush offense edge over Iowa State, but Iowa State returns their 2 backs, and last year Iowa State actually punched with Kansas State in the ground game. Kansas State actually had the higher average yards per attempt in that matchup, but Iowa State, with special teams, with earning a safety, and also by virtue of being at home, ended up emerging victorious in this matchup. Last thing we'll talk about before we move on, and I give you my prediction here, is the special teams. So Luis Rodriguez is a place kicker for Kansas State, coming in, transferring from College of Canyons, where he played last year. Iowa State returns Kyle Conradi, who made 75% of his field goals, 21 of 28 field goals. He had a long last year of, I believe, I think it was in the 40s or maybe 50s. I know he hit a long field goal, a couple of them against Iowa, to emerge victorious in the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Makes 95.8% of his extra points. I would say that Iowa State probably has the special teams edge here, returning a reliable kicker, not getting one from the portal, and Tyler Perkins has been there for quite a bit at punter. Meanwhile, Kansas State has a redshirt sophomore, Simon McClannon, who, forget if he started there last year or not, but I think that at the end of the day, Iowa State has the special teams edge. Kansas State, I would give them the edge on offense here, passing and rushing. As for defense, I'd probably give it a push in pass defense. I would give run defense and pass rush to Kansas State here. I think that Kansas State's the better team. I like Kansas State's coaching staff more. I think Kleiman is a better coach than Matt Campbell. It is close, and Campbell's a good coach, but I do like Kleiman just a little bit more. I think that the spread, so the books, and also ESPN's FPI are pretty right here. It should be a close game, but a game that Kansas State wins more often than not. They're not playing Iowa State on the road. Iowa State no longer has the necessary receivers to win with a bunch of big plays with only 15 minutes of possession. It's not on the road, and Kansas State isn't starting an inexperienced quarterback with limited receivers like last year, so therefore you lose the turnover battle. I think a lot of things go Kansas State's way in this game that they haven't in previous Farmageddon matchups. So I will be going with Kansas State -3 is the play. They're either going to win by 3 or more than that. And I'm taking Kansas State, obviously, to win if I am picking them to cover. Kansas State is going to win by controlling the ball, controlling the clock. I think they will win the turnover battle. I don't know if you're straight up going to see them win the passing yards battle or the yardage battle or anything like that. I want to see these teams play just with all the changes they have. Yes, there's some familiarity, but there's changes, and these games have been very close and very competitive. The Farmageddon rivalry has been in recent memory. So I don't know exactly how Kansas State's going to win or if Iowa State wins. There's so many different pathways these teams could take to win. But I do think Kansas State's going to surprise college football a bit by fielding the more effective passing offense. They're going to, I think, outrush Iowa State, perform better than Iowa State on the ground. And I think they're going to have an easier time getting to Becht than Iowa State will getting to Avery Johnson. So even though Iowa State has the special teams advantage, and they've won, I think, 4 out of 5 against Kansas State in their last 5 matchups, I think Kansas State gets it done here. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, join the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.